Good evening, Saints. Welcome back to another prophetic update with Lighthouse Beams Ministry. In this presentation, we're talking about Adventists saying we welcome the Sunday law. Can you believe it? Like I said, really? How can you say that? We'll also be talking about the G7 summit that is coming up this month, where they're going to be talking about one day of rest for everyone around the world. We'll also talk about how people are trying to push Sunday forward as something good for morality in the community. All this after the intro. Friends, we're going to go right into the video, but if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe to our channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be updated. If you like the presentation, share with your friends so that they can be blessed as well. Now, first of all, we'll talk about Adventists saying we welcome the Sunday. We welcome the Sunday law. Now, this is from Adventist Today. It's an Adventist. Look at the title says, "Why Sunday is my day of rest." This was written by an Adventist publication. By the way, if you want to see, you can see at the About Us section. Adventist Today represents the worldwide family of believers in Christ's redeeming grace, who believe in the freedom of exploring new understanding of God without censure through access independent journalism. And then you say it's because we are Seventh Adventists and blah blah blah. Australian Adventist publication. Now, who wrote this article? The person that wrote this article is on the screen. Somebody by the name of Ferguson, who is a lawyer in Perth, Western Australia, with expertise in planning, environment, immigration and administration, government laws. What did he say? Now, look at the screen. This is what he said. And by the way, the topic says, why Sunday is my day of rest. What did he say? Why Sunday is my day of rest. What was he promoting? Let's go. Look at the title, the first part. It says, as I usually have a busy work week, I spend Sabbath doing church stuff, and that often leaves only Sundays for church. Now, let me just pause here to say this. This guy is conflating Sabbath rest with personal chores. The time we take for self to do personal chores. So that he categorized as rest, as Sabbath rest. That is what I understand from what he's trying to say. Now, what is he saying? Let's continue. It says, nonetheless, all things being equal, Sunday is my best chance of getting some rest. It is for this reason I have no fear for an impending Sunday law. In fact, I welcome it. Friends, does this guy really understand what Sunday law means? I mean, does he really know what the meaning of Sunday law is? It is actually Sunday enforcement by law to go to church and worship. It's not just relaxing in the house. Now, one day, let's just think about it. One day, this little confusion, you state that, and it will mark your destiny between eternal life and eternal death, the mark of God, the seal of God, and the mark of the beast. Just saying a little lie. I worship on Sunday, and then you receive the mark of the beast. I mean, to say I welcome it, does he really know what he's saying? Now, this is not from someone's personal Facebook account or the personal thoughts. This is not on a public or secular newspaper. This is from an Adventist website. And do you know what came into my mind when I saw this? Signs of the Times, January 17, 1884, paragraph 12 says, men in responsible position will not only ignore and despise the Sabbath themselves, but from the sacred desk will urge upon the people the observance of the first day of the week. Friends, it's saying from the sacred desk, and let me tell you, sacred method of communications. Every method that Adventists use should be sacred, anointed, solemn, sanctified, where we preach truth. It doesn't matter what kind of deception you use. The devil is going to use different deception to push forward the Sunday observance by law. Even in the Dark Ages, what did they say? You read from great controversy in history books. They said fasting on Sabbath and feasting on Sunday. And that sounds good to a lot of people. Here, it's kind of something similar to that. the tone of the article. Sabbath is another day of exhaustive work, working in church activity. Sunday is the only day. Is that really? Like, is Sabbath for your personal gain? No. Sabbath is all about God. It's not for personal gain, not for personal use. Now, let's let's continue. Let's continue reading the article. It says, thank God for Sunday. Of course, we can thank God for Sunday. I say this genuinely, not in vain. It is the one day that most Adventists, at least we supposedly good Adventists, is calling himself a good Adventist, get a break. Last week was especially brutal. I worked till midnight almost every night in my day job as a government lawyer. This week I also had to do some roles, he said, as parent of two elementary children, one age 7 and another age 5, and my work was out on traveling on businesses. And it was a very exhausting week for me until Friday came in. What happened? The red writing says, I faced the opening of Sabbath with dread. Friends, is that how we're supposed to enter upon the sacred hours of Sabbath? With dread? Why was he dreading? What did he dread? Look at the next page. Well, we'll see the next quotation paragraph. It talks about, I was embarrassed to say that the best Sunday keeper I ever met, Sabbath keeper I ever met, was a Sunday keeping pastor, because he ran a large church on a Sunday. His personal day of rest was Sabbath. So you see, the way that Sunday worshiper keeps Sabbath, how he rests, that's exactly how he pictures us keeping the Sabbath. And we should, that is what Sunday is for him. So he's saying his day of rest is the Sunday. That's why he's welcoming, open-heartedly welcoming Sunday. And even he stated, I welcome a Sunday law. Friends, this guy doesn't know anything about religious freedom, know anything about freedom of speech. The government should make no law forcing people to worship on a certain day, how they worship or who they worship. That is not given by God to man. I mean, God did not allow the state to conduct that work. Anyways, continuing with the quotation, he said, he certainly did not approach the day with a legalistic, Pharisaic attitude. He drove a car, he cooked food, visited family and friends, and then basically, let's go down to the black writing. Yet he seemed to get the Sabbath far better than most professed Sabbath keeper, me included. I would describe his attitude to the day of rest as a day of chill, a day to chill, just relax. Friends, is that Sabbath? Is that the meaning of Sabbath? Is it for personal chilling? No. Sabbath is not for our personal gain. Again, is conflating Sabbath with the meaning of Sabbath with chilling, with relaxing. There are some correlations. Yes, they shouldn't be labor. It shouldn't be a very exhaustive day, which we'll come to that. But remember, Sabbath is not for personal gain. Sabbath is about Jesus, is about God. There are two specific reasons for keeping the Sabbath. One, to remember him as the creator, honoring and worshiping him as the creator. Number two, to honoring and worshiping him as the redeemer, the one who redeemed us. As we enter into that rest, we firstly remember that he created everything. We didn't have to create anything at all. After creating, he rested and said, you rest with me and contemplate upon my works which I already made. Rest. Enter into my rest. And the second meaning of Sabbath, you can check Hebrews chapter 4, verse 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 10. It's saying, we by faith enter into the rest. By faith enter into the rest. What kind of rest? We do not have to work out our salvation. Now, the Bible also says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. But that actually talks about we surrendering our life to him. You see, everything that had to be done to redeem man from the curse and the condemnation of sin was already done by Christ. Was already done and given on a golden plate, as we say. Our only effort is to accept it, reach out our hands and accept it by faith. So, what is he saying? He's saying that we should open-heartedly welcome Sunday and the Sunday law. Really, a Sunday law? I want to show you a quotation from the Spirit of Prophecy. It says, I was shown that if the true Sabbath had been kept, there would never have been an infidel or an atheist. The observance of the Sabbath would have preserved the world from idolatry. What is it trying to say? If we really understood that, if we kept the Sabbath in its true meaning, there won't be any infidel. There wouldn't be any atheist. It would remove every atheist and infidels and idolatry. What does that mean? What is idolatry? Placing anything in the place, or putting anything else in the place of God. You see, Sabbath is the time that we acknowledge God for who He really is. The Creator first and the Redeemer when the world fell into sin. We were supposed to worship Him before creation, contemplating on His created work. And after sin, we are to contemplate on His redemptive work. There is the rest that we're supposed to. And to go back again to accepting the Sunday law, I cannot imagine that. The man of sin would exalt himself above God and thought to change times and law, brought about the change of the Sabbath from the seventh to the first day of the week. That is from Life Sketches, page 236, paragraph 3. Now, let's go to the last paragraph, and I want to say I somewhat agree with the conclusion. What is his conclusion? It says, so what's the answer then? To be honest, I am not entirely sure. I am open to ideas. Maybe the church service don't have to be a major Broadway productions. Maybe there should be more unstructured, unprepared services, as it was in the case of some Christian tradition. I know many local Adventist churches have experimented with various ideas, and I hope they keep trying new things. Listen to this. All I know is that what we are currently doing does not work well in the 21st century context. And I think these changes are only getting harder. I think we need to be willing to slaughter some sacred cow, which may actually be just golden calves after all, some idols after all. Just like the Sunday worshippers, we have some things, some activities that, friends, I do not know. For my case in Papua New Guinea, where we're living, I see that when I compare Adventism and the spirit of worshiping, I do not know why, but the pioneers that came into our land talked to our grandparents and said, the Bible says, remember, and even our grandparents would say, with an accent, remember. They didn't know what how it was pronounced, but that's how they pronounce it. Remember. Bible says remember, and it means you must remember it from day one. Prepare for Sabbath, starting from Sunday. If you go to the garden, you dig a sweet potato, put a sweet potato aside for Sabbath. If you do something, go to look for firewood, wood, put some aside for Sabbath. Everything you do throughout the week is in preparation. Sabbath is the climax of everything. When Friday, it's the preparation day. Sabbath, you should be relaxing and worshiping. Friends, I think that's the true spirit of Sabbath worship. And if we really do that, all these things wouldn't be a complaint. And this is very true. Let me tell you, some people are busy with their business. Some lesson class teachers, that Friday is the only time of preparing lesson. They would sit till late preparing the class lesson. Some preachers preparing for the sermon till late. And even when it comes again, Sabbath, adventure and pathfindering. Now, I do not want to be critical about that, but sometimes I see pathfinding. They talk about honor classes on Sabbath, but they talk about um, all other things that are not pointed towards God. And this become personal educational stuff, personal educational stuff. We are occupied with a lot of programs that we become more event oriented a lot of times on the Sabbath. Is God really blessed with the program that we are conducting? And when the Sabbath is over, we are so exhausted that we just want to relax. We want the Sabbath to be away as soon as possible. I don't think that's how we're supposed to keep the Sabbath. Friends, there is much to correct. Even after what I said, the conclusion is very true. Adventuring, and he said, I have to, on Sabbath, I have to prepare for pathfinding again, adventurer classes and primary classes, and then all those different classes and activities. Friends, we have to cut down with the activities on the Sabbath. We have to make Sabbath about God, not about us. Because with all these things, Sabbath becomes a burden again. Now, I want to pause for a moment to talk about someone whom I admire as a conservative voice in the United States, someone by the name of Kirk. What's his name? He's studying, it talks about how he's studying to keep the Sabbath, and he saw Sabbath as something that is relieving to him. Charlie Kirk, by the way. Yeah, that's the name. He started, and he doesn't know about the truth from what I'm going to show you. He doesn't know the truth, true identity and true meaning of the Sabbath. But once he started keeping the way that the Jews are keeping, he said, I am experiencing some personal change in my life. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you so that you can see as well. This is what he's saying. Look at it.
Yeah, well, and I'll say one other. I mean, I'm going to challenge you guys on one thing. And Allie, I don't know if you know this. Last July, I was traveled all across the country last year. I was getting really stressed and just worn down, typical stuff that happens on the road. And a pastor friend of mine said, Charlie, you got to take a Sabbath. And I was like, oh, we're not bound by that commandment, whatever. And he really convicted me. So every Friday night, I take a Jewish Sabbath, turn off my phone Friday night to Saturday night. The world cannot reach me, and I get nothing from the world. It will bless you infinitely. Now, I'm not saying you're bound by the law as a Christian. I'm not saying that that's something you have to do. I'm saying it will make your life better. It was important enough that God put it as one of the 10 commandments. And I will say there's debate in some theological circles that we are bound to it because it predated the law. God rested after creation.
Friends, who are the people that make that argument? It predates the law, the Sinaitic law. God rested at creation, so we should be resting at creation. He's not so sure about that law, but he said, I've experienced it for myself. And I see that there is some light in that. Friends, these are the people that are going to be converting in the last minute, and he really understands the meaning of Sabbath. Putting his phone off, no other communications. Try and rest entirely from the work. And he doesn't worship God for who he really is with the true understanding of Sabbath, but nonetheless, he is experiencing the blessing of Sabbath. Can you imagine that? Can we be blessed? I believe we can get more blessing if we actually keep the Sabbath as well. Make Sabbath. Sabbath should really be a day in which we relieve ourselves from all those burdens. Now, look at how he concludes.
So I want you to think about that. So Friday night to Saturday night, no one can reach me. And I wake up, I wake up on Saturday night, I open up my phone, 600 text messages, 900, whatever. But it is the best 24 to 25 hours. And if every young person took a legitimate Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night, I guarantee you, anxiety would go down, depression would go down, you'd actually spend time with people you care about, meaningful conversations would happen. So I challenge you, if you incorporate that in your life, there's no negative. The only negative would possibly be if you had to contact someone in an emergency. If it's an emergency.
Let's leave it to that. Now, the only case would be emergency, saying anxiety would go down, depression would go down. And let me ask you, is that what the Sabbath was for? Exactly, that's what the Sabbath was for. To rest aside. 6 days thou shalt labor. Sunday you shall labor and do your chores. That is not resting. Do not conflict personal resting with Sabbath resting. That's totally a different thing. When the Bible says resting, it's talking about contemplating upon the creative work of God and doing no work. It's not talking about resting and doing your personal chores. And this guy gets it. Stop everything that burdens you, even your cell phone. Just turn it off. Turn it off. Relax. Stop from those busy. It keeps irritating. It keeps bringing all those works during the week again. Your email, your messages that are coming in, reminding you again of you do not rest at all. Now, just by talking about this, let me just tell you, even history has proven that you're not talking about the 7 day cycle. When God created, it's not like a year in which the world rotates around the sun and then it comes to a same spot. So we know, okay, now it's the beginning of another week. No, the Lord just say, just make it 7 days a week. And the matrix system, the people who came up with the matrix system, the French, they said, now let's increase it to 10 days a week. But because whoever came up with that seven idea it's a ridiculous idea. We'll come up with 10 days a week. September 22, 1792 was the first day one of beginning that experiment, 10 days a week. They came up with the conclusion that was a totally wrong decision 13 years later. Why? Because the psychiatric halls were filled up. Many people were becoming crazy in their mind. They said, we cannot do this. We cannot continue this. We have to rest, work 6 days and then rest 1 day, 7 days. If you see in history as well, the French around 1920s, around there, they came up with the 5-day week cycle. They said the French made it so long, 10 days is too much. We'll make it 5 days a week, a number that is divisible. Okay, they started it. You know what happened? The country's productivity level went sinking down. They said, we got to change it back to 7 days a week again. And let me ask you, who gave the 7-day cycle? You can search it in the internet. Circadian cycle, 7-day cycle. Friends, God has given us 7 days. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work. 7 day, put of every work, rest and worship God. That's the purpose of. That's the true purpose of Sabbath, friends. Anyone who doesn't know that, tell them. This is why Sabbath is very crucial, very important. This is why we are not like any other denominations where they go to church and then go back to their work. We have to stop everything and worship God on that day. Sunday law is not an option for Adventists who feel that Sabbath is a burden. There is a way of making Sabbath a day of rest. Change your way in which you conduct your Sabbath service. Because Sunday, the mark of the beast is not a solution. The mark of the beast, the Sunday law, is what the Pope is going to enforce to make it in the near future, enforce it upon penalty of death, upon dissenters, upon Adventists. Is that what some are welcoming? I do not want to be part of that. Now let's talk about the G7 summit, which is going to be conducted this year, beginning at June 15. G7, look at the screen. It says Pope Francis accepts invitation to G7 summit. The first Pope ever to attend. This is the first time that he's going to be attending. Why? In a surprise announcement on April 26, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said that the Pope Francis had accepted an invitation to participate in the G7 summit in Italy, Apulia region, June 13 to June 15. That's when the event is going to be taking place, the G7 summit. His presence, listen to what it says, his presence bring prestige to our nation and to the entire group of 7. It is the first time that a Pope will participate in the work of the G7, she said. Now, what is the G7 summit? It's a summit in which 7 countries, 7 countries around the world, namely Italy, Canada, Germany, United Kingdom, USA, Japan, France, European nations, many other European nations as well, are included in there. They're going to be participating in the G7 summit. Now, there's a video on Facebook that you can search on Earth Sabbath YouTube channel. I'm going to play it for you while talking about the different things that they're going to be discussing at the summit. This is one of the things that they're going to be talking about. 1 day of rest for everyone. Take a listen.
One of the most significant proposals should be the introduction of a weekly Earth Sabbath to combat climate change and promote environmental stewardship. The weekly Earth Sabbath aims to establish a global day of rest and reflection on environmental sustainability, raising awareness and inspiring collective action. By championing the weekly Earth Sabbath, Italy would position itself as a leader in international diplomacy and environmental sustainability on the global stage. The 2024 G7 Summit and the weekly Earth Sabbath proposal could present a unique opportunity to address pressing global challenges and foster international cooperation. We need protesters in Italy to act now as a voice for a weekly Earth Sabbath.
Friends, let me remind you that this thing we have talked for many years, this thing we have said even when there were less than 100 Adventists, Seventh-day Adventists in the United States, we said Sabbath is going to be the distinguishing mark in the last day. Even around the time of 1848, God saw through Ellen White and told the Adventists that Sabbath, although now today there's only less than 100 Sabbath keepers in the United States, in the near future, Sunday enforcement will become a law that everyone has to keep it, and at that time Sabbath will shine the brightest, and you will be a light for the world. You will be showing this truth to the world. Last day events, page 125, paragraph 1, it says, we have been looking many years for a Sunday law to be enacted in our land, and now that the movement is right upon us, we ask, what are our people going to do in the matter? We should especially seek God for the grace, for grace and power to give His people now. God lives, and we do not believe that the time has fully come when we would have our liberties restricted. Now, this was written in 1888, by the way, around December 11, where she said, this is 40 years after 1848. This is when Adventism increased, and this is exactly the time when a Sunday law bill was in Congress, where Senator Blair of the United States wanted to put that forward as a law before Parliament, and by God's grace it was revoked. But again, we have been, since the very inception of Adventism, we've talked about this, and friends, you know what? This thing is right upon us. One day of worship for everyone around the world. And you know what that day is going to be? It's not the Sabbath. It's going to be the Sunday. It's going to be the Sunday. Now, talking about the laws that are going to be enacted in Congress, you know, we talk about image of the beast. Image of the beast is church and state uniting. Great controversy says when the leading churches in the United States uniting upon common points of doctrines as are held by them in common shall influence the state to legislate laws and sustain civil institutions. That is when Protestant America will have formed an image to the Roman hierarchy, and then civil penalty will be placed upon dissenters, people who do not go along with the law, and that is the image of the beast. So we should be expecting some laws to be enacted in the Congress. And let me tell you that at the moment while we're speaking, there is a bill that is sitting right now in Parliament, now in the U.S. Congress. It says to direct H.R. 2494, it says to direct the President of the United States to designate 1 month each year as Fidelity Month for the purpose of rededicating our nation to the values of faith, family, and patriotism. Do you see the Sunday agitation? Friends, do you see this agitation going on? This is no coincidence, let me tell you this. And what are they asking? 1 day of 1 month from the entire year as Fidelity Month. Now, by some chance, if they implement that, don't you think it's also possible to implement or enact 1 day per week? But in any case, do you see this move towards bringing back values of faith, family, and patriotism? And thinking about it, you should also know the importance of religious liberty. Religion should never be enforced upon the masses. it should be voluntary. Now, and then this next part talks about the details of the bill, talking about how they're going to be, what they expect from the people. Now, look at this quotation from Spirit of Prophecy, Controversy, page 605, page 3. It says, "It has been confidently declared that this land could never become other than what it has been, the defender of religious freedom." That's what people have always said. But as a question of enforcing Sunday observance is widely agitated, they even so long doubted, and disbelief is seen to be approaching. And the third message will produce an effect that it could not have had before. The third message, what is the third message? Says, "If any man worship the beast or receive or his image and receive his mark, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured without mercy," by the way, that is. And the second punishment is to be tormented by fire and brimstone. So we're going to be saying, if you receive the mark of the beast, you'll receive the punishment of God. We're going to be presenting this very boldly. We'll sow from courts, from congresses, from public places. Even some will seal their testimony with their own lives. Friends, and this is how this message is going to go far and wide when it is enacted upon the land. People have thought that America was a land of religious freedom. Soon, this is the law that is gonna change America from being a land of religious freedom to a land that enforces religious laws upon the masses. Now, this is the person that is actually pushing this forward. This is Robert George. He says, "You may have read about rather disturbing recent WSJ polling, that is Wall Street Journal polling, indicating the precipitous decline in our fellow American belief in the importance of such values as patriotism, religion, family, and community. The values that used to unite Americans despite our many differences. There are a million things we can and should do to restore the faith of our people." So basically it's talking about those values. We have to show fidelity to those values again, a renewing of our value system. Now, I'm going to show you the Wall Street Journal is talking about. This is the article, by the way. It was published, and the polling, I'm showing it from the New York Post. It says the Wall Street Journal survey found that 38% of Americans says patriotism is very important to them, down to 70% who said the same in 1998. Now, there's a comparison of 3 different years: 1998, 2019, and 2023, and they are showing a quick decline, very rapidly, in the decline of those principles. Now, the idea, let me put it, how do I put it? Is it a genuine or a good cause to renew those values? Of course it is. But the way in which they're going to approach it, it's what we're cautious about. It cannot be enforced by law upon the people. It should be voluntary. It should be voluntary, especially when it comes to worshiping. Anything to do with religion, voluntary. So, this is what Robert said. Now, U.S. President calls for recognition of Fidelity Month, and those are the people that are involved in pushing this forward to the Congress. And it's already there. It's already there. It's being discussed. Now, this is the guy that talked about it just last month, May. He made a video preparing for this month, in June, how we should keep the Fidelity Month. This is what he says. Let's take a listen.
All right. First, it's a matter of rededicating ourselves to fidelity to God and to spouses and families and to country and community. All right. How do we do that? It's not just a psychological move. We do have to think, right? We have to say to ourselves, we have to resolve, you know what? I'm going to be a more faithful Christian or a more faithful Jew or a more faithful Muslim. And this is not sectarian. Fidelity Month is not just for Christians. It's for everybody who recognizes the importance of fidelity. So no matter who you are, rededicate yourself to God. Be a better Christian than you're being right now. If you haven't, if you haven't been praying regularly, start praying. Again, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, if you haven't been praying regularly to God, start praying. Start praying more regularly. If you haven't been attending church or synagogue or mosque, show up. If you're not active in the...
Now, what month are they promoting this? It is actually in the month of June. Why the month of June? June, what is it famously known for? What month is June month? The Pride Month. And I'm sure around the world at this time, many are celebrating. So you see, because they are pushing that, now we have to counteract with this other solution that we as Christians are bringing forward. But it's not only for Christians. It can be for Jews, for Muslims, for anyone else, for that matter. So this is supposedly the conservative view. You see where this is heading. That's why they're trying to push this to Congress so that it could be imposed upon the masses, upon the people, legislated as law. Why? Because there's corruption, there's chaos that is coming in because of these people. You see how the pendulum is swinging. The more it swings to the other side, when it comes back with the same force again. Now, they're going to talk about the reason why they're actually doing it. This is actually a Catholic news YouTube channel that they actually saw this intention, what this guy is saying, and they were impressed. So the interviewman is going to explain what that actually is. Now, the purpose of it and why they came up with Fidelity Month on the month of June.
Welcome to this special edition of Loopcast, where we cover all things faith, culture, and politics from a Catholic perspective. Today we're discussing a new initiative for the month of June, which has been culturally appropriated by the LGBTQ plus divided by minus agenda as Pride Month. Well, now we are pushing back with Fidelity Month.
Well, these people, these are Catholics, some professed Catholic, they're trying to push for, they recognize this bill and see it as something good. So they're pushing forward, they're promoting it. Now, let's see, why is he actually doing that? Well, he already saw it, but let's see him talk about it again.
But first, tell us a little bit about how we got here. Why do we need a new name for June? Why do we need Fidelity Month?
Well, we need Fidelity Month. It doesn't really matter much whether we celebrate it in June or July or August or September, or for that matter, in December or January. We need Fidelity Month because we need in our culture and in our nation to rededicate ourselves to the principles of fidelity to God, fidelity to spouses and families, and fidelity to our country and communities. All the polling data, Erica, all of it, most recently the poll released by the Wall Street Journal, but plenty before that, all the polling data show that there has been a precipitous decline in people's understanding of the values of religion, of family, of country. I think we can restore our strength, Erica, if we rededicate ourselves to God, to marriage and family, to country and community. So that's what Fidelity Month is all about.
Again, the motive seems very genuine, seems very innocent, but the method is what we're questioning. How are they going to promote this? How are they going to promote this to the people, to the general public? Legislate it, really? This is Senator Harlan talking from the U.S. Senate. This is what she said in 2015.
It's knives, or you can use whatever. It's the soul that is corrupt. And how we get back to a moral rebirth in this country, I don't know, since we are slowly eroding religion at every opportunity that we have. Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back.
What did she say? Probably we should be debating a bill where every American should go to a day of their choice, attend Sunday, a church of their choice on Sunday, every Sunday. A bill. Why? For morality. The problem is with our morality, our character. That's why we should make laws. Wow. Really? Now, look at this. This is why many people do not get it. The Sunday movement is taken from last day events, page 125, paragraph 3. The Sunday movement is now making its way in darkness. The leaders are concealing the true issue, and many who unite in the movement do not understand, do not themselves see whether the undercurrent is tending. They are walking in blindness. They do not see that if the Protestant government sacrifice the principle that have made them a free, independent nation, and through legislation bring into the Constitution principles that would propagate papal falsehood and papal delusions, they are plunging into the Roman horrors of the Dark Ages. Friends, do you see? This is where everything is heading. America was built upon principles that said a religion without, or a church without a pope. No one should dictate how a person, how and who they should worship. A state without a king or a monarch. A king that doesn't control religion. He just practices his political power. And a religion that doesn't interfere with politics. But when church and state unites, there's always persecution and bloodshed in all ages. And this is something that they do not understand. They are willing to easily give away. Selling the birthright. It's like selling the birthright, just like what Esau did. And once this is done, it's saying we are plunging back immediately to those dark ages. Can you imagine that? Friends, this is what is at stake. This is what is at stake at the moment. Again, why is this coming into play here? Because there is another team on the other side that is pushing the pendulum far to the other side. But when the pendulum swings back, it comes even with a greater force. When they see that one side is becoming corrupted, they think that to bring morality back, we are going to enforce this law that it's supposedly going to fix all our problems. Friends, that's not going to happen. Look at an article that is, I'm trying to show from different angle how this agitation is going on around the world. This is a letter written by someone who said we should bring back those blue laws, and how she actually said it. Look, the letter says, remember the Sabbath may soon be long forgotten. My mother grew up in Greensboro area in the 1900s. On Sundays, her parents forbade her from playing games and attending picture shows. In the early 1960s, on an episode of the Andy Griffin Show, a businessman was passing through Mayberry on a Sunday when his car broke down. Goma and Welly refused to repay his car on Sunday, even though the businessman offered to pay them whatever they charged. So basically, she's trying to say Sunday was holy, kept holy before. Today, the pendulum of Sunday reference has swung to the opposite direction. It seems that most businesses that were once closed on Sunday are now open. Chick-fil-A is one of the few that is closed, mostly for religious reasons. Now, you can read through everything. Let me jump down to the bold blue writing. It says, only the fourth commandment begin with the word remember. How much more will it be before it is totally forgotten? Why did they publish this article? To show people that there is a decline in Sunday worshiping. What are they promoting? Sunday rest. Sunday rest. There's an agitation, Sunday agitation at every hand. Now, I'm going to show you a case that took place last year. I prepared it last year and I was going to share it, but I never did. This is this is Groff. Gerald Groff. He was a worker of Amazon. Was terminated for working for his religious conviction. He didn't want to work on Sunday, but they forced him to work. So he said, "I'm gonna quit," and he actually took them to court. What happened? He won the court. He was repaid $50,000 US dollars, breaking Supreme Court ruling in favor of Christian postal worker in unanimous religious freedom decision. The U.S. Supreme Court issued an unanimous ruling Thursday in favor of a Christian postal worker who says that he was targeted and disciplined by his employer for refusing to work on Sunday because of his religious belief. In its ruling in Groove versus DeJoy, written by Justice Samuel, the court said federal laws require an employer that denies an employee a religious accommodation that showed that the burden of the accommodation would result in substantial increase in the cost. Now, look at the second part. It says at heart in the case of the case was Gerald Groff, a former postal worker who is also an evangelical missionary. In 2019, Groff resigned from his post with the U.S. Postal Service after years of allegedly being arrested, targeted, and disciplined for refusing to work Sundays so that he could abide by the third commandment to keep holy the Sabbath day. Is that the third commandment? No, it's the fourth commandment. Who changed it to the third commandment? That's the Catholics. Unknowingly, those whoever wrote, oh, by the way, this article was written by the Jesuits, the National Catholic Register. So they said he was trying to keep the third commandment, keeping the Sabbath holy. Now, this is what MSNBC had to say about the report.
Katie, this decision, as you just mentioned, was brought by an evangelical post office worker who wanted to rest and worship on Sundays and whose post office wouldn't accommodate him because of all the Amazon packages that they have to deliver. Now, that's no longer the case. Now, the employer has to accommodate the employee unless that would impose substantial costs on the business itself.
Again, Grove actually won the case. How did he win? How many people supported him?
It's unusual to get all 9 justices to vote unanimously, right? Rule unanimously.
It is. And, you know, the whole nature of most Supreme Court cases is such that there is some divisive issue or lower court split that necessitates resolution, and that usually doesn't lend itself toward unanimity. But here, one of the things that the justices were struck by was how many religious groups were in favor of clarifying this test and who basically came before the court as amicus.
There were many religious groups that came together in support of these men. Do you see? Again, there is a movement that is going on, a Sunday agitation going on. And this person was given the religious freedom to worship. After seeing this, there were some people that actually said, thank God for America. We have laws that promote religious liberties, and there were some pastors that actually said we still have religious freedom. You see, these people were given religious freedom. I'm going to contrast with another case that the story goes a little bit different. Now, this is from the Christian Post. It talks about the Amazon delivery provider pays $50,000 for firing Christian employee who refused to work on Sunday. This is the same guy. Let's see the next article. It says, in 2019, 60-year-old Haitian immigrant Marie Jean Perry was awarded $21 million in punitive damages after being fired from a job as a dishwasher by the Conrad Hotel in Miami. What did she do? She said, I want to go do missionary work. I cannot work on Sunday. And she was rejected that. But when she took the case all the way to Supreme Court, she was awarded, she was given 21 million. Can you see that? And this is a Catholic woman, by the way. She was acknowledged for what she did. But what about Adventists? I'm going to present to you an Adventist. This is Gerald Patterson. The same, another article from NBC News. It says a court case in 2000. This is 2019. This woman won a case, got 21 million. But when an Adventist went to court in 2000, when it had a 5-4 conservative majority, declined to hear a similar case involving an employee at the Walgreens call center who, as a Seventh-day Adventist, requested that he not work on Saturday, which is a Christian denomination's day of rest. One of the Christian denominations' day of rest, they're saying. He's a Seventh-day Adventist, by the way. Well, let's see. Who is he?
My name is Daryl Patterson, and I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm a father of 3. I enjoy working with people and serving others, and I am faithful to my God.
What was he trying to do? To be faithful to God, just like those other cases that was decided. But what happened to his case? His case was declined. Now, why? Why was he declined? Or maybe he converted later when he was in Walgreens, when he was already there working in Walgreens. No, he was an Adventist before he went and worked there. In his interview, he explained everything. Let him see for himself.
I was employed with Walgreens from 2005 until 2011. Walgreens knew from the very beginning that I was a practicing Seventh-day Adventist. During the interviewing process, I specifically asked if it would be a problem. And I explained that I didn't work Friday sunset to Saturday sunsets. And they advised me that it wouldn't, and I was hired.
Wow, a similar case. He even told them before the interview everything was clear, but even then, after 6 years of working, he was still rejected religious freedom.
Our Constitution and civil rights laws protect Sabbath worshipers from discrimination. For 6 years, Daryl was able to do his job and observe Sabbath every Saturday. But then Walgreens fired Daryl for refusing to break his Sabbath to run a 30-minute training session on a Saturday. But other employees kept their jobs after missing similar shifts for non-religious reasons.
The events leading up to that day, the suspension, and then eventually the termination, coming home and having to say, honey, I'm home, and by the way, I just lost my job.
Pause. Now, there were other cases of employees who missed out on the job for non-religious reason, but they still kept the job. Can you imagine that? Can you believe that? But this is where the trend is going. A less importance on the seventh-day Sabbath and more emphasis on Sunday. Wow. The pain. This is not only Daryl. This is going to be our experience in the near future. In the near future, we're going to be experiencing that. Everyone is Adventist.
This experience was much more painful. It goes to my soul. It's about my relationship with my God.
After Daryl was fired, he went to court to defend his rights and stop Walgreens' religious discrimination. His case is now being appealed to the Supreme Court.
There are others who find themselves faced with the Sabbath accommodation question as well. There are those that came before me, those that will come after me. And so for that reason, this really wasn't entirely about Daryl. It was about all of those who worship on Sabbath, who have a strong religious conviction about a holy day.
Friends, just wind up. Let me say that this test is going to come to every man sooner or later. sometimes now he's going through that. There is the test is your personal relationship with God is placed on the line. Will you obey God rather than man? Or are you going to obey man? Now, sometimes there's some people that said, but I had no option. How am I going to feed my family? But I have no option. My life is on the line. You see, there were people who placed their life on the line in the past. And this guy, he had to leave his job because of that. Praise God for people like him. He had to leave his job. He considered losing his job as an option. What do we say? I didn't have any option. There's no option. People in the dark ages who saw death as just another option. That's the option that we do not want to talk about. That's the option that we do not count because we want convenience. But sooner, we're going to be placed on the same level. This is what our future holds. Last the events page 129, paragraph 2 says, the prophecy of Revelation 13 declares that the power represented by the beast with lamb-like horns shall cause the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the papacy. There symbolized by the beast like unto a leopard. This prophecy will be fulfilled when the United States shall enforce Sunday observance, which Rome claims as a special acknowledgement of her supremacy, a day in which Rome actually gave it to the world, to all the Protestant churches that worship on that very day. They're going to implement it, make it become the law of the land again very soon. Great Controversy, page 578, 579. Political corruption is destroying love for justice and regard for truth. And even in free America, rulers and legislators, in order to secure public favor, will yield to the popular demands for a law enforcing Sunday observance. Pause here. Who is going to be enforcing it? Well, the government is going to be enforcing it, but it will be the cry of the people. It says to secure public favor. That means the public will be crying out for the Sunday law. Are we seeing the public crying out for a Sunday law? Yes. Ordinary citizens, Robert George, many other people are saying the only commandments which God said, remember, is being rejected. We should go back to Sunday. Really? The remember was remember the seventh-day Sabbath to keep it holy. Now, this is what's going to be taking place. To secure public favor, those laws are going to be implemented. Now, what happens once America enforces that law in the United States? Testimonies, volume 6, page 395 says, foreign nation will follow the example of the United States. Though she lead out, yet the same crisis will come upon our people in all parts of the world. There's not going to be a land in which there is no Sunday law. Everywhere around the world will have to enforce this law. Every man will be tested, friends. You're going to be tested. Every single Adventist will be tested. Some very severely than others, but in any case, everyone's going to be tested on this issue for themselves. What is our duty? Review and enroll, page 100 and last day events, page 126, paragraph 7 says, it is our duty to do all in our power to avert the threatened danger. Our vast responsibility is devoted upon men and women of prayer throughout the land to petition that God may sweep back the cloud of evil and give a few more years of grace grace to walk for the Master. What should we be doing? Friends, the world is still fast asleep. It is now within our power, our hands to pray. Pray for what? Pray for God to increase time and give a few more years of grace to work. Friends, it is not time to pray for God to come back very soon. That sometimes I see there's a greedy prayer. Yes, we do not want the mystery and the problems of this world. So we want to go to heaven, sure. But as we go through the last crisis, our hearts should be poured out for the people who do not know the truth. We should have a heart for them. Those who do not know the seventh-day Sabbath. Those who do not know about the saving grace of God. And friends, let me tell you, time is very short upon us. If we pass 2025, 26, 27, going even to 2030 without a Sunday law, it is going to be by God's grace alone. Because the way things are going, prophecy is very fast fulfilling. Ellen White said the final movements will be very rapid one. And mind you, once Sunday law comes in, everything will speedily wind up. You do not wait for Sunday law to prepare. Now is the time to pray and walk. Now is the time to get up from our sleep. Because the laws, we've talked about these laws. We've said that it's going to be fulfilled. But look at Senator Allen. We should be debating a bill for everyone to go and worship on Sunday on a church of their choice. Robert George choosing a month as Fidelity Month. Make it something part of our Constitution. There is breaking of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. There is the uniting of the church and state. Friends, the world is winding up. We have to pray for God to, in His grace, to give us more time to finish the work. But He's going to finish it within a short time, the Bible says. However He does, He's going to do it. We pray that we are on the team that works with Him to finish the work. No time for sleeping. It's time to wake up from our sleep. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for the message that you have given. Bless us. Help us to wake up from our sleep and see the impending danger that is right upon us so that we could walk and prepare for your soon coming. Be with us, for we ask this prayer in Jesus' most worthy name. Amen.
Lighthouse Beams Ministry is an Adventist self-supportive ministry that is dedicated in spreading the truth of the three angels' message. If you feel that what we are doing has touched your life and can touch the lives of the others, please do support us by either PayPal as a one-time payment or become a Patreon supporter simply by clicking their respective link in the description below. Make a decision today to be part of something amazing and life-changing and help spread the everlasting gospel while we still have this little window of opportunity. God bless you all.